What if the moment you call yourself poor is the exact moment you lose your power? Not when your bank account hits zero. Not when opportunities disappear. Not when life becomes difficult. But in that quiet, almost invisible second, when you accept the idea, I have nothing, because the moment you say it, something inside you shifts. Your posture changes, your thinking narrows, your decisions become smaller. And without realizing it, you begin to act like someone who has already lost. Picture this. It's late at night. You're alone. Your phone lights up your face in the dark. You scroll. Success. 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 Someone bought a new car. Someone is traveling the world. Someone your age is already there. And then there's you, still figuring things out, still building, still unsure. And a quiet thought enters your mind. I'm behind. You don't argue with it. You don't question it. You accept it. And that's where the real problem begins. Because poverty doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your perception. The world has trained you to believe something dangerous. That wealth is visible. That success is obvious. That power is measured by what you can show. But what if that's a lie? What if the most powerful people are not the ones who display wealth, but the ones who control themselves? Think about it. A person with money, but no discipline, will lose it. A person with opportunities, but no focus, will waste them. A person with talent, but no control, will never fully use it. So what are they really? Rich or just temporarily lucky? Now flip it. A person with nothing, but with discipline. With patience, with control over their emotions and decisions. Are they truly poor, or are they just early? This is the hidden truth most people never realize. The world doesn't respond to what you have. It responds to how you think, because your thinking shapes your behavior, and your behavior shapes your outcomes. If you believe you are poor, you start playing small. You avoid risks. You hesitate in moments that require action. You settle instead of building. Not because you lack ability, but because you've accepted a limitation that doesn't actually exist. And the worst part, it feels logical. It feels real, but it's not. It's conditioned. You've been taught to measure yourself against people you don't fully understand, using standards that don't reflect reality. You've been taught to see the surface and assume the depth. But power has never worked that way. Real power is quiet. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to prove itself. It builds slowly, deliberately, invisibly, and by the time it becomes visible, it's already too late to compete with. So the question is not, how much do you have right now? The real question is, what have you accepted about yourself? Because if you've accepted the idea that you are poor, then every decision you make will reflect that belief. And if you reject it, if you decide even with nothing that you are not lacking, only building, then something shifts. Your thinking expands. Your actions become intentional. Your presence changes. You stop reacting to life and start positioning yourself within it. And that is where everything begins. Because the truth is simple. Money doesn't decide if you're poor. Your thinking does. There's a version of poverty that doesn't show up in numbers. You won't find it in your bank account. You won't see it on paper, but you feel it. It shows up in quiet moments. In small thoughts. In the way you interpret your life. You wake up, check your phone, and within minutes, you've already compared yourself to someone else. Not consciously, but automatically. Someone is ahead. Someone is doing better. Someone has what you don't. And just like that, your mind shifts. You stop seeing your own progress. You stop recognizing your own position, and instead, you begin to measure your life through lack. This is the psychological trap, because comparison is not harmless. It doesn't motivate most people. It weakens them. It slowly convinces you that what you have is not enough, that where you are is not acceptable, that who you are is falling short. And the more you repeat that idea, the more real it becomes. I don't have enough. I'm behind. I'm not there yet. These aren't just thoughts. They're scripts. And once your mind starts running them, your behavior begins to follow. You hesitate when opportunities appear. You doubt your decisions before making them. You look for approval instead of trusting yourself, not because you lack ability, but because you've accepted a position beneath where you actually stand. This is how people lose power without losing anything tangible. They adopt an identity that limits them, and the world reinforces it. Because the modern environment is designed this way, you are constantly exposed to curated success moments that are filtered, edited, and selected to impress. But you don't see the full story. You don't see the failures, the uncertainty, the years of quiet effort behind those moments. So your mind fills in the gaps. You assume others are ahead in every way. You assume you are behind in every way, and without realizing it, you accept that role. This is where real poverty begins, not in your circumstances, but in your interpretation of them. Because once you believe you are lacking, you start making decisions from that place. And decisions made from insecurity rarely lead to power, they lead to safety, to hesitation. To missed chances. So the trap is not having less, the trap is believing that less defines you. And once you see that clearly, you begin to question everything you thought was true. There is a reason why figures like Machiavelli are still studied today, not because they spoke about morality, but because they understood reality. And reality is this: power has never belonged to those who simply have more. It belongs to those who understand how power works. Most people think money creates power, but history tells a different story. There have always been individuals with wealth who were controlled, and individuals with nothing who controlled others. So, what's the difference? Perception, because power is not just material. It is psychological. It lives in how people see you, how they interpret your presence, how they expect you to behave, and expectations shape outcomes. If you appear uncertain, people question you. If you appear weak, people test you. But if you appear composed, certain control, something shifts. Even if your reality hasn't changed, their perception of you has, and that alone changes the dynamic. This is the hidden truth Machiavelli understood. You don't wait to become powerful. You behave like someone who is, not through arrogance, but through control. Control over your emotions. Control over your reactions. Control over what you reveal and what you don't. Because the moment you expose desperation, you lose leverage. People sense it. They may not say it, but they adjust their behavior around you. They push more, respect less, expect little. But when you remain steady, even under pressure, you create uncertainty, and uncertainty commands attention. Think about it. To people walk into the same room. One talks constantly, tries to prove themselves, seeks validation in every sentence. The other speaks less, observes more, responds only when necessary, who seems more in control, who appears more powerful. It's not about who has more. It's about who needs less, because need reveals dependence, and dependence reduces power. This is why thinking poor is dangerous, not because of your situation, but because it changes how you present yourself. You begin to signal lack. Uncertainty. Insecurity. And the world responds accordingly, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. Because people don't respond to your reality. They respond to what you project. And those who understand this stop waiting for external change. They change their internal position first. They decide how they will be perceived, and over time, that decision reshapes their reality. That's power, and it has very little to do with money. Most people believe they have nothing. No money. No connections. No advantage. But what if that belief is not just wrong? What if it's blinding you? Because not all wealth is visible. In fact, the most powerful forms of wealth are often the ones no one sees. They don't show up in your bank account. They don't impress people instantly. They don't create attention, but they create something far more important. Leverage. Start with time. Every single day, you wake up with hours that have not yet been spent. Unclaimed. Unused. Completely under your control, and yet, most people treat it like it has no value. They give it away to distraction. To comfort. To things that demand nothing from them, not realizing they are spending the one resource that cannot be replaced. Then there's focus, the ability to direct your attention without being pulled in every direction. In a world designed to distract you, this becomes rare, and anything rare becomes powerful, because the person who can focus can learn faster. Build faster. Adapt faster. Then comes discipline, the ability to act, even when motivation disappears. This is where the real separation begins. Because motivation is temporary. It comes and goes, but discipline stays. It forces action when comfort says stop. It creates progress when nothing feels rewarding, and over time, it compounds. Quietly. Consistently. Until one day, the results appear, and people call it luck, but it was never luck. It was control. Now add emotional stability, the ability to stay calm when things go wrong, to think clearly when others panic. To pause instead of react. This is not just a Personality trait. It's an advantage because most people lose clarity under pressure. They rush decisions, they act emotionally, they make mistakes, but the one who remains steady, sees what others miss, and acts when it matters. Now imagine the people. One has money, but no discipline. No focus. No control. The other has very little, but owns their time, their focus, their emotions. Who builds something real over time? The answer is obvious, because money can disappear overnight. But these assets, they grow, they multiply, they strengthen you from within. And once you recognize them, something shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who lacks and start seeing yourself as someone who is building. Not empty. Just early. And that realization alone changes everything. Every decision you make begins long before the moment you act. It starts in your mind. And the quiet assumptions you carry about yourself, not your situation, but your interpretation of it, because the people can stand in the exact same position, with the same resources, the same opportunities, and still choose completely different paths. One moves forward, the other holds back. One sees potential, the other sees risk. And the difference is not intelligence. It's perception. When you believe you are lacking, your thinking changes. You don't realize it at first. It feels logical. It feels responsible. But it's not. It's fear, disguised as caution. You begin to prioritize safety over growth. You avoid risks, even the necessary ones. You delay decisions, waiting for certainty that never comes. You hesitate in moments that require boldness, because in your mind, you cannot afford to fail. But here's the truth most people avoid. If you never risk anything, you never build anything. Growth always requires uncertainty, and the person who fears uncertainty remains stuck in place. This is where poor thinking becomes dangerous. Because it doesn't just limit your actions, it distorts your judgment. You begin chasing quick solutions. Fast money, instant results. Anything that promises relief. Not because it's the best option, but because it feels like escape. And escape thinking creates bad decisions. You say yes too quickly. You trust the wrong opportunities. You ignore paths that require patience, because your focus is not on building something strong. It's on getting out as fast as possible. And urgency destroys clarity. When you feel pressure, you stop thinking strategically. You stop asking, is this right for me? And start asking, will this fix things now? That shift is where mistakes are made, because the opportunities that truly change your life really look easy. They look slow. They look uncertain. They demand consistency, and someone thinking short term will walk away from them, not because they lack ability, but because their mindset won't allow them to stay. This is the hidden cost of thinking poor. It's not what you lose today. It's what you never give yourself the chance to build, because every decision you make is a reflection of how you see yourself. And if you see yourself as someone who lacks, you will always choose from a place of limitation. But if you shift that perception, even slightly, your decisions begin to change. And over time, those decisions change everything. Before people understand your reality, they respond to your signals, not your bank balance, not your past, not your struggles, your presence, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you react under pressure. And most people give away more than they realize. They show uncertainty in their tone. They show fear in their body language. They show desperation in their decisions. And without saying a word, they communicate weakness, not intentionally, but clearly, because perception is immediate. People don't wait to fully understand you. They form impressions quickly, and those impressions shape how they treat you. If you appear unsure, they question you. If you appear desperate, they take control of the situation. But if you appear calm, composed, certain, something changes, even if nothing else has. This is the power of controlled perception. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about discipline. The discipline to control what you reveal and what you don't. Because most people react emotionally when something goes wrong. They show frustration when pressure increases. They show panic when uncertainty appears. They show doubt, and in doing so, they give others an advantage. But the person who remains steady becomes difficult to read, and what cannot be easily read cannot be easily controlled. Imagine walking into a room. You don't rush to speak. You don't try to prove yourself. You observe. You listen. You respond only when necessary. Slowly, deliberately, people notice. not because you are loud, but because you are controlled, and control stands out. In a world full of reaction, calmness becomes authority. In a world full of noise, silence becomes presence. This is where perception begins to shape reality, because once people see you differently, they treat you differently. And when they treat you differently, your opportunities begin to change, not because your situation improved, but because your signals did, and over time, those signals become your identity. So the question is not just, what do you have? It's, what are you showing the world? Because whether you realize it or not, you are always communicating something. The only question is it working for you or against you? The moment you need something too much, you lose control over it. Not always visibly, not instantly, but subtly, in the way you think, the way you act, the way others respond to you, because need creates pressure, and pressure changes behavior. When you are desperate for money, you rush decisions. You accept offers without thinking. You ignore warning signs. You lower your standards just to feel secure. When you are desperate for approval, you start adjusting yourself. You say what people want to hear. You hide your real thoughts. You trade authenticity for acceptance. And slowly, you lose your position. Not because someone took it from you, but because you gave it away. This is why detachment is powerful, not because it makes you careless, but because it keeps you in control. Detachment means you can want something without needing it to define you. You can pursue goals without being controlled by the outcome. And that changes everything. Because when you are not desperate, you think clearly, you pause before reacting, you evaluate before deciding, you walk away when something isn't right. And that alone creates power. Because most people can't do that. They are too attached to results, to validation, to immediate outcomes. So they stay in situations they should leave. They accept terms they should reject. They chase things that weaken them. But the person who is detached is different. They are patient. They understand timing. They know that not every opportunity must be taken and not every loss is permanent. This patience creates advantage because life doesn't reward urgency. It rewards clarity. And clarity only comes when you are not overwhelmed by need. Detachment also protects your identity. If something fails, it doesn't define you. If something is delayed, it doesn't break you. You adapt. You adjust. You continue while others stop because their identity was tied to the outcome, but yours isn't. And that's the difference, because the person who needs less controls more, and the one who controls more always moves differently, not rushed. Not pressured, but precise. And in the long run, precision always wins. Most people equate power with speaking louder. They believe influence comes from the force of their words, the volume of their presence, or the attention they demand. But real power is quiet. It watches. It listens. It waits. Because information is everywhere. But most people fail to see it. They are too busy proving themselves, too busy reacting, too busy talking. The person who observes, who remains silent, gains a secret advantage. By watching others, you notice patterns, the hesitation before a lie, the overconfidence that hides insecurity, the subtle ways people reveal their intentions without realizing it. This knowledge is invisible, but more powerful than money, position, or fame, because understanding people allows you to anticipate. To act deliberately. To avoid mistakes that others inevitably make. Think about a conversation. The people respond to the same challenge. The loudest one speaks first. They react emotionally. They commit to actions before they understand the stakes. The quiet one waits. They watch expressions. They notice inconsistencies. They absorb the context. And when the moment is right, they act. Not impulsively, but strategically. Silence creates leverage. Observation creates insight. Together, they become invisible wealth. This is why the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. Because power doesn't require validation. It doesn't demand attention. It quietly shifts dynamics without announcing itself. A subtle nod, a measured pause, a calm response. These signals carry weight that words cannot. And over time, those who master silence and observation begin to influence outcomes before others even realize it. They understand what people want. They understand what people fear. They understand the rules that govern behavior without being told, and in doing so, they move differently. They make choices others can't see coming. They gain advantage quietly. They protect themselves while others expose themselves. This is the wealth that can't be measured in dollars. It can't be taken away. It compounds over time. Because every moment spent observing, every silence held intentionally, every pattern recognized, builds knowledge. And knowledge is leverage. So if you want to rise to gain influence, to build power even when resources are limited, learn the art of silence. Master observation and let your advantage grow, quietly, invisibly, inevitably. Because the one who speaks less often knows more, and the one who knows more always wins. Every choice you make carries consequences, some small, some enormous. Yet most people make them impulsively. They react emotionally. They let fear, anger, or desire decide their next move. They live in the moment, not the long game. But there is a different way to approach life. Strategic thinking. It begins with a pause, a moment where you step back from the immediate emotion and ask, what is truly happening here? What is the outcome I want? How will this choice affect me tomorrow, next month, next year? This is the difference between living emotionally and living strategically. Consider the individuals facing the same setback. One panics, they lash out, they blame others, they act from frustration, and in doing so, they create more problems. The other pauses, they observe the situation, they assess the risks, they plan their next move carefully, and their response changes everything. Strategic thinkers understand that not every battle must be fought, not every insult must be answered, not every opportunity must be seized immediately. They wait for leverage. They act when advantage is certain. They conserve energy for the moments that matter most. This mindset is powerful because it separates them from the masses. Most people live in reaction. Most people allow emotions to dictate behavior. Most people are predictable, but predictability is vulnerability. By contrast, strategic thinking creates unpredictability. It creates control. It allows you to guide outcomes instead of being guided by them. And it starts with small, consistent habits, pausing before responding, questioning the assumptions behind your thoughts, evaluating the long-term consequences of short-term actions. Over time, these habits compound. Decisions that once felt urgent are now deliberate. Mistakes are minimized. Opportunities are maximized. And the emotional stability that emerges becomes its own form of wealth. Because those who act strategically rarely panic, rarely overreact, rarely waste their energy. They focus on leverage, timing, and clarity, and the world responds. People notice. They adjust their behavior. They respect their decisions. In essence, strategic thinking transforms uncertainty into power. It turns moments of chaos into calculated advantage. And the most important truth, your future is not built on how hard you work in a frenzy. It is built on how intentionally you think, decide, and act. Those who master strategy rise quietly, move deliberately, and accumulate influence while others burn themselves out chasing the immediate. Because success is never about reaction. It's about preparation, control, and timing. And timing is the ultimate weapon of the strategic mind. Your identity is not fixed. It is a story you tell yourself every day, in every thought, in every decision, and that story shapes everything. The person you believe yourself to be determines how you act, what risks you take, who you associate with, even what you believe is possible. Most people never stop to examine this story. They inherit it from society, family, or past failures. And without realizing it, they live according to someone else's definition of who they are. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I'll never be respected. These internal narratives quietly control you. But the good news, they can be rewritten. Rebuilding your identity begins with awareness. First, notice the story you've been telling yourself. Where did it start? Who reinforced it? Which moments of fear or failure did you carry forward? Next, question it. Is it true? Or is it just a belief you've accepted? Then, choose a new narrative. Not one that ignores reality. Not one that promises instant results. But one that reflects who you want to become and what you are capable of building. This is not a single act. It is consistent reinforcement. Every decision, every action, every habit supports the new identity. The moment you act as someone confident, disciplined, and capable even in small ways, you begin to internalize that identity. Over time, it becomes automatic. Your thoughts align with your behavior. Your behavior aligns with your goals. Emotionally, this is transformative. You stop seeing yourself as limited. You start seeing yourself as capable. You stop reacting to life's judgments and start shaping your own. And the more deliberate you are, the faster this transformation occurs, because the world responds to who you are, not who you were told you are. You don't rise by gaining. You rise by becoming. This is the essence of reclaiming power. It's quiet. It's internal. But it changes everything externally. Your identity determines your influence, your confidence, and the trajectory of your life. And once rebuilt, you can navigate scarcity, competition, and adversity without ever feeling powerless again. The foundation of lasting power is the identity you create, protect, and project. Most people equate wealth with money, a bank account, a house, a flashy car, visible markers that signal success. But that is only one form of wealth, and it is the most fragile, because money can be lost. Opportunities can vanish, fame can fade. True wealth is not what you have. It is what you control. It is the clarity you maintain, the freedom you preserve, the influence you command. Control is the first pillar. The person who can manage their thoughts, emotions, and actions cannot be easily manipulated. They make deliberate choices instead of reacting to circumstances. They navigate life on their own terms. Freedom is the second. The individual who does not rely on constant validation, who does not chase others' approval, can act without fear. They pursue goals because they choose to, not because they must. Clarity is the third. The mind free from distraction, focused on long-term advantage, able to see connections that others miss. Clarity allows precision in decisions, timing, and strategy. Influence is the fourth. Power rarely resides in isolation. It grows when others follow, respect, and respond to your presence. And influence is earned quietly through consistent action and controlled perception. Now imagine the people. One has millions in the bank, but is controlled by fear. Every decision dictated by uncertainty. Every action influenced by anxiety. Their wealth may be visible, but their life is not theirs. The other has little money, but owns their time, their focus, their emotions, their relationships, their perception of the world. Who is truly wealthy? It is the one who can walk away from any situation, the one whose peace cannot be bought, the one whose mind is sharp, and whose presence commands respect. Because material wealth is fleeting. It comes and goes like tides. But control, clarity, and influence are enduring. They are assets that compound over time, invisible to most, but immensely powerful to the few who recognize them. And this is the hidden lesson Machiavelli emphasized. Wealth is not a possession. It is a condition of mind and character. The rich may change overnight. The powerful endure. When you stop chasing money as a measure of success, you begin to see your own invisible wealth, your time, your discipline, your patience, your ability to act strategically while others react. And once you see this, you can operate differently, make choices boldly, invest your energy wisely, influence situations without relying on luck or external validation, because real wealth is never about what others can see. It is about what you can control, the freedom you protect, the clarity you maintain, the power you quietly build. Some people have money, but no power. Some people have influence, but no freedom. Some people chase wealth and lose themselves in the process. But the rare individual who understands the truth, who values control over currency, who invests in their mind, character, and strategy is untouchable. This is the reality of true wealth, invisible, internal, indestructible, and it starts with rejecting the idea that lack defines you. It starts with recognizing that you already possess what most people spend their entire lives searching for, because wealth is not earned. It is realized. And once you realize it, everything else becomes secondary. Look back for a moment. Remember, the person at the beginning, the one scrolling late at night, comparing themselves to everyone else, feeling small, behind, insufficient. That person believed lack defined them. That person thought their worth depended on money, status, or validation. That person did not yet see what was invisible, what had always been theirs. Here's the truth. They were never poor, not in the way that matters. Because poverty is not measured by the number in your bank account. It is measured by the limitations you accept in your mind, by the narratives you tell yourself, by the doubts you nurture, by the control you give away to fear, urgency, or comparison. Every thought you allowed to convince you that you were less, every reaction driven by scarcity, every hesitation caused by self-doubt was a step into the trap of perceived poverty. But now, you can see differently. You have learned that wealth is invisible. It is not cash or assets. It is time, your most precious resource. It is discipline, your power to act when others hesitate. It is emotional control, your ability to remain steady while chaos surrounds you. It is strategic thinking, your capacity to pause, observe, and act deliberately. It is influence earned quietly, consistently, and invisibly. It is identity, the story you tell yourself and the narrative you choose to live by. All of these are real forms of wealth, and the moment you recognize them, you stop living as someone who lacks. You begin living as someone who is building, because building is the opposite of scarcity thinking. Building is long-term. Building is deliberate. Building is unseen by those who only judge the surface. And once you embrace that mindset, everything changes. Decisions are no longer reactionary. Opportunities are no longer ignored. Challenges are no longer feared. People respond differently to you, not because you have more, but because you project more. You project control. You project patience. You project certainty in the world. Always notice a certainty. The final lesson is simple but profound. Power begins with perception, but it is sustained by internal mastery. No one can take away your time. No one can take away your discipline. No one can take away your focus. No one can take away the clarity you build within. Those are yours forever. They are indestructible. They are wealth in its purest form. So return to that opening scenario. You are alone. It is late at night. You scroll through social media, but now your perspective has shifted. You see what is real. You see what is fleeting. You see what truly matters. You are not behind. You are building. You are preparing. You are accumulating the invisible wealth that will outlast any fortune. And the most powerful part, this wealth is untouchable. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be taken from you by circumstance, by market crashes, by the opinions of others. It exists inside you. It is the quiet authority you carry, the strategic mind you sharpen, the identity you craft. You were never poor. You were only taught to think like you were. Now, think differently. Act intentionally. Observe carefully. Because the richest person is not the one with the most money. It is the one who understands their mind, masters themselves, and quietly shapes the world around them. And that is the ultimate form of wealth. Your next step is simple. Continue building internally, protect your mind, refine your perception, and watch as life begins to respond, not to what you have, but to who you have become. Remember, money can come and go, but your power, your control, your invisible wealth, that is eternal. And in that truth, you are free, you are wealthy, you are untouchable, you were never poor, you were just taught to think like you were.